Hello and welcome. The local currency is expected to end the year 2021 at 6 cedis 24 pesos by the end of the year. That's a projection by the economic and finance think tank Center for Economics, Finance and Inequality Studies in its City Outlook report this year. My colleague George Rafi has more in this report.
The think tank is made up of some senior finance lecturers from the University of Ghana and the Central University, and they primarily focus on some economic, banking, finance, and some social issues in the country. According to the think tank, their projection is based on the fact that the expected rebound of the economy will not be enough to support the city's stability for 2021. He noted that they expect exports to still struggle this year, despite the expected opening up of economies around the world because of COVID-19 vaccines. Another area that the think tank believes that will negatively affect the Ghana city has to do with revenue shortfalls and how that would affect the financing of the budget deficit going forward, which may not be good again for the Ghana city. The think tank also believes that government's finances might be under some pressure this year as more debts are expected to mature. In their projection, they forecast that the local currency would hit 6 Ghana cedis 24 pesos by the middle of this year and would depreciate further to reach 6 Ghana cedis 45 pesos. But in the same report, they acknowledge that the Bank of Ghana's forward sale or auction had gone a long way to stabilize the Ghana cedi last year and will still have some impact this year. But from the report, it was clear that the main challenge for the Ghana cedi is coming from government side in relation to expenditure and revenue, and had little to do with some lags or shortfalls in how the Bank of Ghana is managing the Ghana cedi on the monetary side. However, some of the view that looking at what the central bank has put in place, they don't see the city's fortunes worsening by the close of this year.
Well, whatever happens to the city affects exports and imports. Of course, the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obin, says that the city has been much more stable in the beginning of this year, especially as it's aiding the movement of goods and services at the ports.
To tell the truth, the cedi have been against the dollar have been stable, even since 2020, throughout 2020. Okay. 2020 started with 5.7 and ended around 5.93, and we are still within that rate. Today, if you ask me how much I'm buying dollar with the cedi, I would say that it's 5.93. It means that the dollar against the cedi have been quite stable and is being sustained. That's what I can say. And this is happening because now import is being suppressed, because at this time it was expected that the dollar would have gone up against the cedi because of the Chinese holiday. When Chinese traders are leaving for their country, they change a lot of dollars and all that.
Let's bring in Courage Mata. He's an economist with Data Bank. Courage, we're so grateful that you joined us via phone. First of all, we're hearing some sort of a contradictory message there. City is going to hit 6 cedis by the end of this year based on a projection from the economic think tank, as well as Guta stating that it has performed much more good in the very better performance in the beginning of this particular month. Where do you draw the line when it comes to the performance of the city?
Well, thank you very much, Charles, for having me. I think that the two arguments have merit. First of all, Dr. Obin of Guta actually is making reference to the performance of the city over the course of last year against the odds of COVID shock, and then the performance so far this year in the past 18 or so trading days or calendar days. Now, so far this year, it's shown immense stability, losing just 0.01% against the dollar on the interbank market. And what you will see is that if this trend of stability continues, it does not necessarily rule out hitting 6 cedis as is being projected by the earlier report you mentioned. And that is because looking at where we are on the retail market, where we have 5.93 to the dollar, if you move from 5.93 to 6 cedis or a little over that against the dollar by end of year, not today, but by end of year, that will be equivalent to some 5% depreciation this year. Now, if you do a historical analysis of depreciation, you will notice that 5% is not out of the question at all, because averagely in the last 4 years, for instance, we've done 7.5% average depreciation. So it tells you that if you go by the city's trend performance, 6 cities is a possibility. And again, not just because it is stable today, but there's a timeline of up and down movement that could move us towards that level. It will be interesting to see what that means for the central bank's broader macroeconomic framework and how they will be prepared to tackle such a situation against inflation outlook and against the government debt service cost.
Well, speaking about the central bank, we do know that they have issued out specific auctions in excess of about $50 million. Of course, they are much more at the forefront of dealing with the upsurge of the cedi's, downfall against major currencies. What more do you think the regulator must do to ensure the cedi is in check moving forward?
Well, I think and what they've done so far and have signaled that they will do gives a lot of confidence in the cedi, and that is why we are seeing this kind of stability. In addition, we notice that there's a lot of foreign portfolio flows into the country, and so far that has been a very supportive factor or an anchor for the cedi stability year to date. Now, when those funds come in, there is a high chance of having hot money amongst those portfolio flows. And hot money is one that just comes to scoop some gains and normally would leverage and come and scoop some gains and go back and to make some carry trade and go back to make away with their returns. It is important to monitor this kind of hot money flows so that they don't distort currency stability. And another thing the central bank has to do is to ensure that the repatriation of export proceeds back within the domestic economy within the stipulated time is followed to, particularly big multinationals in the oil and gas sector as well as in the mining sector. It is very important. And then not to leave out the fiscal situation where the sizable monetization of the deficit that we saw in 2020 cannot be repeated in 2021 unless we pose shock to the cedi.
Courage, we're so grateful that you joined us. He's an economist with Data Bank, helping us have a deep analysis into the prospects of the cedi as we're learning it might hit the 6 cedi mark by the end of this year. Away from that to some relatable development, we're talking of exports now, because the year 2021 will be a game changer for exports in Ghana. The reason is that under the National Export Strategy, we're expecting to meet a target of $25 billion over a 10-year implementation period. This won't come easy. Already we are seeing the impact of COVID, the cedi dollar performance, as well as the good old Brexit, where we're having specific tariffs on exports, products from Ghana and, across the sub-region. What is the strategy moving forward? We're joined via Zoom by the Deputy Chief Executive of the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, Samuel Dainty. We're grateful that you joined us, sir, and Happy New Year to you. This is the first time we're having this interaction with you. First of all, how is the 1D1F kicking in this year? Because we know it's going to be much more of a stepping stone to your performance in exports in the span of 10 years. Sam, if you could hear me, if you could unmute your microphone so we could hear you better.
Yes, my microphone is on. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Good. I think that I'm having issues with connect E1F. It's coming up. Is that right?
Yeah, you're loud and clear. So if you could hear me, the question to you is that how is the One District, One Factory initiative kicking in this year? Because we know it's going to be much more of a stepping stone to your performance in ensuring export margins hit the $25 million mark in 10 years' time.
Thank you so much for that question. And 1D1F this year, I see this year as consolidating where we left last year. If I remember correctly, as at the end of the year last year, we had about 232 factories at various stages of implementation.
we had about 76 of them operating, and about 107 under construction. I see this year as consolidating those factories. And you said it rightly that as export promotion, we are interested in the export bits of these district factories. I think it's aligned to our export strategy, where we say that at least every district should have one exportable product. So you are right to link the one district, one factory rollout to export improvement. So this year, you know that the year just started, but I believe that we are just going to consolidate and complete the ones that were still in process. But as of last year, I knew that about 76 of them were actually operating.
Well, the year just started, and with it comes specific issues that I believe GEPA might be addressing. We're talking of the city's performance. Already we're getting hints of it hitting the 6 city mark by the end of this year. Also, is the matter of Brexit, specific tariffs being slashed, splashed on goods and services from Ghana and other, sub-Saharan African economies. Not to forget about the impact of COVID-19 as well. How are you cushioning the regular exporter in Ghana from all these shocks moving forward?
All right, thank you so much for that question again. Yes, with the issue of Brexit, I think that, England themselves believe that Brexit shouldn't really affect their trading and their partners in trade. I know that Ghana England is one of the biggest trading partners when it comes to exports for Ghana. On the other way, Ghana is also very interesting to Britain themselves when it comes to where they sell their goods. There is very significant inequalities between Ghana and England or the United Kingdom when it comes to trade. However, it's an important market for us. And the UK themselves, recognizing that, are putting together a lot of programs that is looking more bilateral trade with their partners. Just yesterday I had a meeting with a consultant that is looking at how we can take trade forward between the UK and Ghana in the area of cocoa derivatives. I think that as a country, we have recognized the fact that we cannot continue selling our cocoa beans directly to our trading partners across the shores. And so in our export strategy, export development strategy, one of the things that we have said, or one of the products that we have highlighted to add more value to is cocoa. And so yesterday I had a meeting with a consultant looking at how we can bring in more companies to process our cocoa before we sell it to UK specifically. And that project, is one of many projects that, as a result of Brexit, UK themselves are rolling out to ensure that there is competitiveness with their trading partners. So Brexit, yes, but they realize that trade is the game, and so they are putting in place bilateral arrangement to make sure that we do not cut trade, which is going to affect us significantly as a result of Brexit. In terms of COVID, realize that even within the space of COVID, trade is still going on. It is difficult. It is not easy as it were, but realize that movement of goods were a huge exception when it comes to trade. And so as GEPA and Ghana Export Promotion, we are encouraging our exporters to do as much as they can to ensure that they maintain their businesses with our trading partners across the shores.
Well, Mr. Dentu, sorry to cut you there, but I'm so much interested in getting to find out what GEPA is doing to cushion exporters from most of these shocks, because we're even having this discussion on the wake of development at the port, where shipping lines have now, increased their freight charges, renting containers from about $3,000 to $13,000, an amount that the average exporter might not be able to afford. So how is GEPA, based on your strategy, cushioning exporters, the average young exporter out there, for most of these shocks in this particular year?
Okay, so when it comes to freighting, you realize that is also another private business. But just before we went on the break, on the issue of freighting and cushioning exporters, we had lots of meetings with various organizations, in the freighting business, to ensure that our goods are not, do not cease going offshore because of freight costs. GEPA, as its work, cannot directly cushion traders in terms of maybe paying part of their freight costs or something like that. But we can speak with these private businesses to ensure that, because of COVID, we are able to ensure that their rates come down. A typical example of a meeting that we had was a meeting that we, in terms of freighting of foodstuffs, was having a meeting with one of the airlines to together with the exporters themselves, to see how we are going to reduce the cost of freight. Yes, it is an issue, because for the freight providers themselves, or the logistics providers themselves, there is a cut in business for them, and so they also look at ways that they can cover up. But what we do is to be a middle organization that brings the two private organizations together and talk to see how we can make it easier for our exporters to sustain their business.
All right.
So we do so many interventions in terms of advocacy to ensure that businesses still continue, and more importantly, keep their orders, because that's important. Yeah. Samuel
Dentu, we're so grateful that he joined us. He's the Deputy Chief Executive of the Ghana Export Promotion Authority there, on their prospects for 2020 and the next 10 years. Well, importers and exporters plead with governments to maintain port charges despite increase in international freight charges, as we did discuss earlier on. Already we're seeing the cost of renting containers increase from $3,000 to $13,000. High freight charges are becoming a nightmare for traders and importers, who say the cost of renting or shipping a container from Asia and Europe has skyrocketed within these lines. Meanwhile, our Tema correspondent Kwame Yanka has been at the harbour and joins us on phone for some updates. So good afternoon, Kwame. From your checks, are we going to witness any increment in charges or the levies, or it will stay somewhat where it is now? Well, sadly, we seem to have lost Kwame. We shall work the lines to get him. But as we do that, let's move on to a different story, because Crystal Mining Consult under the Kibi Goldfields at Asiakwa in the eastern region is leading the way in preserving the environment through responsible mining. Over 56 acres of mine concession are being prepared to be handed over to owners of the land. Half of this reclaimed land is revegetated in preparation for farming and other purposes. Live FM's Anaya Ojima visited the Ghanaian-owned large-scale mining firm and has come through with this report.
Under the concurrent mining system, mined areas are reclaimed before the miner starts work on another part of the concession. Segments of the soil dug out are separated from each other and properly kept for reclamation. Chief Geologist Samson Osu explains the soil is replaced by the same layers dug out before black soil is reintroduced to support vegetative cover.
After mining everything from the pit, then we send the gauss from the waste plant, the plant reject, back to the pit. And then after filling it with the gauss and then the tailings have the oversize and the undersize. We put the oversize before being the undersize. After that, we cap it with the overbed. And then we do the contouring and then put back the topsoil.
Trees common to the environment are already planted in restoration of vegetation cover. Mahogany and Oframo are few of such tree species. The trees are mixed cropped with cassava, which is fast growing on the reclaimed land. Some of the cassava has the root crop formed, indicating the soil's fertility despite being mined. Loretta Boateng is Environment Officer.
So we wanted to see the variation and the growth rate with which it will come, so that after the next period, we can able to know how to grow the next phase of the land as well. And it also helped me not to buy, because if I plant and I get enough food crops and I test at the lab and there's no significant metal that affects the production of the body, then it means I can do intercropping. And intercropping, crops actually grows faster than the natural trees we have.
Though these lands have proven fertile, the company is required by law to hold on to the land for at least 5 years before release to the farmers. Chief Executive Officer of Crystal Mining Consult, Nana Bribi Boateng, says the use of concurrent means of mining contributed to responsible mining realized on the concession.
We have reclaimed about 99% of mine-out areas. But for us, because we want to complete the job, if it is 1 year contract, we want to complete every job or whatever we have to do within that period. That is why we take up upon ourselves to do concurrent mining, so that we will not finish all the mining before we come back to make a reclamation.
For JoyNews, Nana Ojima reporting.
Well, let's reconnect the lines to get in touch with our Tema correspondent, Kwame Yanka, who's going to be giving us updates on development at the port. We're hearing of high freight charges that are affecting the trade of movement of goods and services by some exporters. Kwame, if you could hear me once again, I was asking before the line, went somewhat challenged. What exactly is the situation there currently when it comes to the increment in shipping lines?
Okay, so Charles, let me say that the implementation of the additional charges is not across board. Meaning, if you use, for instance, shipping line A or B, your choice will determine how much you will pay. Let me start this example where an agent who paid 3,000 cedis to clear some goods towards the end of the year, and that's 2020, has to pay about 5,000 cedis few weeks into 2021. Now, another agent also paid about 4,000 cedis last year to clear a reefer container. Now he is paying 5,500 for the same container he cleared last year, doing same in 2021. So some agents are not happy with this situation, and they have come together and they've even petitioned Ghana Shippers Authority to intervene, as it were, to ensure that these charges do not affect traders badly.
Well, but we're having also this conversation in the wake of Ghana being the secretary to the Continental Free Trade. Speaking to most of these exporters or importers at that, what are they telling you could be the possible consequences over these charges?
Well, they're unable to put a concrete answer to this, but they are saying that these shipping lines run their companies independently, let me say. So what goes into these charges, what is factored in and all that, will be difficult to tell. But obviously, nobody goes into any business to make a loss. So as it were, they would make sure that once they are paying more to have their goods cleared at the port, that will be factored into the cost, and that will be passed down to the consumers at the end of the day.
Obviously, Kwame Yanka, we're grateful for that particular update. He's our Tema correspondent, bringing us up to speed to developments there. Shipping freight costs of containers has skyrocketed over the past few weeks, especially when we're hearing the impact of COVID from Asian and European countries. We shall be keeping an eye on this story to give you updates as and when we do have them. But that's how we end this edition of The Marketplace. My name is Charles Aitim. Enjoy the rest of our programs.